Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things and welcome to another video, and today I have a very exciting cover reveal for you. If you're new here, hi, my name's Katie Lumsden and I like books a lot. I read a lot. I also make videos on this YouTube channel, Books and Things, talking about books. I also work as an editor and I'm also an author. I write historical fiction. My debut novel, The Secrets of Hartwood Hall, came out in 2023. And my second novel, The Trouble with Mrs Montgomery Hurst, is coming out in the UK in July 2024. And I'm very excited to be able to share the cover with you today. I've spoken about my new novel a little bit on this channel already, and I'll link down below the last video I made about The Trouble with Mrs Montgomery Hurst, where I spoke about the kind of premise and plot in a bit more detail, and also about the kind of journey I've been on with this book because I've been working on it for so long. Anyway, I do want to tell you a little bit about the book today before I get into the cover reveal. So The Trouble with Mrs Montgomery Hurst is a work of historical fiction set in 1841, so right at the beginning of the Victorian period, and it follows various characters who all live in the county of Wickenshire, which is, you know, a fictional county I have created for this novel. And Wickenshire is a community that is very much driven by gossip. So when one of the county's most eligible bachelors, Mr Montgomery Hurst of Radcliffe Park, announces that he is getting married to a woman who none of them have heard of before, a lot of gossip and tension ensues. The idea behind The Trouble with Mrs Montgomery Hurst is that we follow the story of Mr Hurst and his new bride through the gossip of everyone surrounding them. Unlike my first novel, The Secrets of Hartwood Hall, which was very gothic and in first person and followed a small cast of characters, The Trouble with Mrs Montgomery Hurst is much more a comedy of manners. It is third person and following a lot of different characters, a lot of different families who are all kind of impacted by Mr Hurst's marriage. But the closest the book has to a protagonist is probably a young woman called Amelia Ashpoint. Amelia is 23 years old. She has no interest in marriage and she has other plans for her life. But her father, who is a wealthy brewer and a little bit of a social climber, would really like Amelia to get married. And Mr Hurst's new marriage kind of brings that tension between them to the fore. The Trouble with Mrs Montgomery Hurst is, I guess, a love letter to 19th century literature, specifically to Elizabeth Gaskell, Jane Austen and Anthony Trollope. I feel like if you like those authors, hopefully you will enjoy what I've tried to do in The Trouble with Mrs Montgomery Hurst. So let me show you the cover. I made like a little graphic thing because I thought that might be fun. So here we go. Okay, so here is the cover for The Trouble with Mrs Montgomery Hurst. Isn't it beautiful? I love it so much. Like, I really loved the covers for my first book, The Secrets of Hartwood Hall, but I actually think I love the cover for The Trouble with Mrs Montgomery Hurst more. I just really love the whole thing. I really love the look of it. The simplicity of it makes me think of like penguin cloth bound classics, which really makes me happy. And I also really love the silhouette figures along the bottom. And I know in my head who the silhouette figures are, whether the designer slash illustrator intended the figures to be the characters who I think they are. I know who I think they are. So this here in the corner, this is Amelia Ashpoint holding a book. Amelia likes to read, and this is her friend Clara, who she spends most of her time with. And then over here, this young man raising his hat. In my head, that is Diggory Ashpoint, who is Amelia's brother, who is one of my favourite characters. And next to him is Lady Rose, a young woman who Diggory has a massive crush on. And then in my head, in this carriage here, Mr Hurst is bringing his bride home to Wickenshire. That's what I've decided is going on in this cover, and that makes me really happy. I also really enjoy the birds because for me they feel like symbolic of gossip and the spreading of gossip, which is just fun, I hope. So yeah, I really love the cover a lot. I think it's very, very beautiful. Moving on, having shown you the beautiful cover of The Trouble with Mrs Montgomery Hurst, I do have one other very exciting thing to show you, and that is the map. So there is a map for The Trouble with Mrs Montgomery Hurst that will be in the front of the novel, and it looks supremely beautiful, so I'll put it up on the screen now. I am so excited about this map. So I drew myself a map of Wickenshire while I was working on the book in order to help me work out where everything was in relation to each other. The way sort of social structures and class structures worked in the 19th century, you wouldn't get a lot of very wealthy people living next door to each other in the countryside. They would live far away from each other were on their own estates. So what I have in this bit of southwest Wickenshire is the town of Melford, and then a few big grand houses scattered around Melford. So I drew myself a map, as I said, and my drawing ability is not great. So my publishers wonderfully got a professional illustrator, Neil Gower, to draw up the map in all its glory. And it looks so much better than mine did, and it just looks wonderful. So let me introduce you to a few of the important places in Wickenshire. Over here you can see Radcliffe Park. This is where Mr Hurst lives, and where he's bringing his new bride home to. Over here, this is Ashpoint Hall, where Amelia lives with her family, and just next to Ashpoint Hall is Ashpoint Brewery, the brewery her father runs, and that has made his fortune. Up here we have Wickford Towers. This is where Rose, who I mentioned earlier, lives, and over here we have Ludwell Manor, where another very important family in the neighbourhood live. They're called the Eltons, and they are very, very proud. And actually, Felicia Elton is one of my favourite characters, but I haven't had time to talk about her today because there are so many characters in this book in a way that I hope you will really enjoy. I am so excited about the map in The Trouble with Mrs Montgomery Hurst. I just think it's so beautiful and it's so lovely to have, and I feel like hopefully it will help readers get like a really good sense of this place as a place, this place I have created. Also, maps are like very special to me, I guess. When I was a little kid, me and my brother used to draw maps of other worlds. Like that was one of our favourite games. We used to like sellotape together like 8 to 10 sheets of A3 paper and draw these massive maps that we would like blue tack on the wall. So maps are just something that I really associate with like me wanting to create other worlds and wanting to become a writer, and like the beginning of having an imagination, I guess. So it's really, really exciting to have a map like in the front of my second novel. I feel like 10-year-old Katie would be very proud. So I think that is all I wanted to say today about The Trouble with Mrs Montgomery Hurst. I love the cover, I love the map. I'm very, very excited about this book. As I said, it's coming out in July in the UK. I'll leave links down below with some more information and also where you can order the book if you want to. Obviously, if anyone wants to pre-order it, that would be exceptionally lovely. I'll leave links to Waterstones and bookshop.org in the description, and also to Blackwell's, which apparently is like the best place to order from if you're ordering internationally. I am just very excited about The Trouble with Mrs Montgomery Hurst, and I love the cover. So that's all for now. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.